of food, you're not obligated to eat every single food in the sukkah. And you may be aware that many Chabad eat everything in the sukkah. The men, everything they eat or drink, they walk into the sukkah. They eat in the sukkah. They drink in the sukkah. That is many Chabad. But in discussing according to Halacha, because women are not obligated to eat in the sukkah, you don't. There's no meaning that women have to eat everything. They drink everything in the sukkah. So what are women obligated to eat in the sukkah? Or actually, what are men obligated? Because that's what's going to be practical for you in terms of doing the mitzvah. Is only what's an obligation to men. That's something that you would like to keep, if possible, to eat in a sukkah and say the bracha of leisha b'sukkah. So when are you obligated to eat in a sukkah? If you're eating hamaitzi, bread, or mezainis, any type of mezainis, you're obligated to go into sukkah. Talking about those, men are obligated, right? Men are obligated to eat hamaitzi or mezainis in the sukkah. That's only for eating a certain amount, which is a little over, let's say, ounce and a half, about there. So if eating a certain amount, there's an obligation for men that they have to eat in the sukkah. That's why, if you'll notice, if you go places, let's say Chalamayid, and there's men around, then out of Chabad, the men will eat out of the sukkah. But you'll notice they're not eating any mezainis, they're not eating any cake, because mezainis has to be eaten inside the sukkah, unless you eat a very small amount. But they will eat everything else. In Chabad, the men won't eat and drink at all out of the sukkah. So when you're obligated to eat in the sukkah, the men and the women who choose to do the mitzvah, there's a bracha like every mitzvah. We say shekidishanu b'mitzvayse mitzivanu leishe b'sukkah. And that is said after you say the bracha on the food, after you say the zaynus. Let's say you want to have sukkahs, you want to have a piece of cake, and there's a sukkah available. If you're able to, if it's not difficult, it's a good thing to do. You don't have to, but why not? If you're able to, you go into the sukkah, you say zaynus, then you say leishe b'sukkah, and then you eat from it. Now, what happens if you forget to say leisha b'sukkah? You could say it whenever you remember. In fact, if you don't remember until the very end, you're ready, you finished eating, and you benched already. I didn't say leisha b'sukkah. Because you're still in the sukkah and you're sitting, you can say leisha b'sukkah. Now, we're going to go into more details now. Let's say you're sitting in a sukkah. Now, first something practical, which comes up all the time and everyone always gets confused, and I don't know why. Sitting down for Yom Tov meal, and you had challah, and you said leisha b'sukkah, and you're eating, and then you bench, and they bring the dessert, or they bring the dessert before you bench, whichever way. They bring dessert, and they bring a very good 7-layer cake, and cake is mezainis, and we say leisha b'sukkah, and cake, everyone is, oh, we're going to say leisha b'sukkah. And I'm always saying, no, you already said leisha b'sukkah because you washed. It says leisha b'sukkah. Oh, you don't have to say again. No, you don't have to say again. If you're still in the sukkah, you don't say again leisha b'sukkah. It's like if in the middle of a meal eating bread, so now 20 minutes later you say, I might say again. If you're drinking your coffee, and 20 minutes later, oh, I'm going to take another, I'm going to continue drinking my coffee. I didn't drink for 15 minutes. You're going to say again a bracha. You're still in the sukkah. If you didn't leave the sukkah, you don't say a new bracha leisha b'sukkah. As a matter of fact, even if you left the sukkah, but if you did not leave for too long, and if when you left, your intention was that you're coming right back, you're just kind of going out to 2 minutes, you're going to get something, you're coming back. You didn't leave the sukkah, you're still connected to the sukkah. It's like you haven't left the sukkah because when you left, the intention was to come back within an hour. So you don't have to say leisha b'sukkah again. You're not supposed to say Leisha Basuk again. You're still connected to the sukkah. Now, we say Leisha Basuk in Kiddush. So the way we do it is, you'll see it in the Siddur. Usually you hear Kiddush. If you have to say Kiddush, you find it yourself in the Siddur. So we say Leisha Basuk right after Kiddush. So when you're washing, let's say Chalamayit Succos, and you're just having Chala, so you say Hamayitzi and then Leisha Basuk. But if you're saying Kiddush, we do Leisha Basuk right after Kiddush. And there is a difference between the first night and the second night, exactly when you say Leisha Basuk, because we also do the Shechiyanu at night. Just like every Yom Tov, we do Shechiyanu in Kiddush, right? And the women do it in candlelighting, the men do it in Kiddush. So the Shechiyanu that we do in Kiddush on the nights of Succos is not only for the Yom Tov. We say Shechiyanu every Yom Tov, Pesach, Shavuos. But the Shechiyanu that we say in the Kiddush of Succos is not only for the Yom Tov of Succos, but it's also for the, anybody? It's also for the Sukkah. And that is why the first night when we say Kiddush, after Kiddush, what we do is we say Leisha Basuk, and then Shechiyanu. So Shechiyanu goes on both the Kiddush, the holy day of Yom Tov, and on the Sukkah. On the second night, we do the Kiddush, then we do the Shechiyanu, and then Leisha Basuk. I don't expect you to remember this. It's in the Siddur, but when you see it in the Siddur later, you'll put it together. That you'll know, and you'll notice that the first night and the second night is a different order. Everyone just knows they come to, okay, first night this way, second way that way. But now you know the reason. Because first night, the Shechiyanu is also for the Sukkah. So that's why after we do Kiddush, we do Leisha Basuk. And then we say Shechiyanu, which refers to both the Kiddush, which means the Kedusha, the holy day of Yom Tov, and the mitzvah of eating in a sukkah. It's interesting if someone, let's say, did not eat the first night in a sukkah. Because it was raining, let's say. Okay, let's say you didn't eat the sukkah the first night. Then you come to the sukkah the first day. It's the first time eating in the sukkah. You have to say Shechiyanu. You have to say Shechiyanu for the sukkah. Now, the only thing is, if you already said Shechiyanu when you did Lov and Esrog and you did it in the sukkah, that could be different. Then you won't have to say Shechiyanu. So, in simple words, I can simplify it. If someone is eating the first time in the sukkah, on Succos, and they never did Lov and Esrog, or they did it but not in the sukkah, and they're coming into sukkah and eating the first time in the sukkah on Succos, they will say Shechiyanu. Because you have to say Shechiyanu the first time you do a mitzvah. First time you do Lov and Esrog, you say Shechiyanu. Sukkah also. But usually the first night of Succos is the first night you eat in a sukkah. And there is Kiddush. And there's going to be Shechiyanu in the Kiddush. So that's why we say Shechiyanu in the Kiddush. It includes Shechiyanu eating in the sukkah. Now, for women who lit candles and they said Shechiyanu, that not according to Dal Tadeba, it's not going to, even that will not include the Shechiyanu for the sukkah, unless you said Shechiyanu in the sukkah. So if you lit candles in the sukkah, that will include the sukkah too. Is it becoming confusing now? Okay, so there's a lot of information coming all together. We light candles like for every Shabbos, for every Yom Tov, but for Succos, it's supposed to be in the sukkah. Now, Not everyone does it in the sukkah. It's supposed to be in the sukkah. You can light. What I do is, my wife lights some in the sukkah, some in the house. But it's supposed to be lit in the sukkah. You light candles in the sukkah, you say Shechiyanu in the sukkah already. So he said Shechiyanu in the sukkah. But if someone didn't light candles and didn't say Shechiyanu in the sukkah, and they never said Shechiyanu in the sukkah, even when they did Lulav and Esrei, the first time they're eating the meal, coming into sukkah, they would have to say Shechiyanu. I don't know why it's not, you aren't aware of this. But that's the way it's supposed to be. The first time eating in a sukkah is Shechiyanu. Okay, let's go on to other things. Any questions on this?
Right.
Yeah.
You just said that your wife, like, she likes some in the sukkah and some in the house.
Correct. How what?
How she does. Like, she say,
how do you do some in the sukkah, out in the house?
Yeah.
Some in the house?
Like she say, like, to
explain the question. I didn't say she says to brachas.
No, I'm asking you.
Okay, explain. If you light into blaze, that means to brachas, right? I mean, lighting, you can light. Oh, when you, so your question is, when does she say the bracha? That's your question, right? If she's lighting in two places, where is the bracha said? Okay, that's the question. So she begins lighting in the house, and then she goes to the sukkah without speaking, no interruption. She finishes in the sukkah and she says the bracha in the sukkah. Because you have both in the house, the sukkah, so there's the sukkah, the goes out, and it's windy, whatever. But you should light in the sukkah. That's really, it's supposed to be where you eat. And people have issues sometimes. If you plan things out in advance, what I try to do is I try to make some type of bowl where the fire is inside a bowl, so it's deep inside. It's not sitting on the table where the wind open up the door and it goes out. It's inside a bowl. I try to cover it with something, leave some space, obviously, for the air to get in. Cover it maybe a piece of silver foil. Poke a hole somewhere so this air, so the fire has oxygen. If you plan it out, there's ways how to do it. A very important halacha, and that is, if you're going to have a farbrengen in a sukkah, let's say, it's very important that you should have some mezainis there and say leishim sukkah, because if you're sitting by farbrengen and you're sitting and you're spending time in the sukkah, it's questionable if you have to say leishim sukkah, because you parked yourself in the sukkah, you're sitting there, you're farbrengen, you're not just in and out. Perhaps you should say leishim sukkah. What do you mean perhaps? Meaning there is a doubt. It is questionable if you need to say leishim sukkah. Now, usually leishim sukkah is, we said hamleitzi and mezainis. You eat hamleitzi mezainis, but even if you're not eating hamleitzi mezainis, but if you are spending time in the sukkah, spending time sitting and relaxing in the sukkah, and really spending time with someone, there's also reason that perhaps you should say leishim sukkah, but you can say leishim sukkah because it's questionable. So you don't say leishim sukkah, but that's why it's a good idea if you're going to be spending time sitting in a sukkah and talking and having a farbrengen or whatever, a share, a lecture, whatever it is, spending quality time there, you should have, it's a good thing, it's a proper thing to have some mezainis. So like this, you can say the bracha leishim sukkah.
So you don't say leishim on Jaco or any other bracha?
No, there's no leishim on Jaco. There's a misconception that people think you say leishim sukkah on a cup of grape juice, a cup of wine. There's no leishim sukkah on a cup of grape juice. Where's the confusion come from? Anyone knows where the confusion comes from? Because we say it in Kiddush, and we say it in many Chabadas. We say also in. No, anyone?
Wait, what's the question again?
Where does the misconception come from that people think you say leishim sukkah on a cup of grape juice?
You say
Okay, there's also another place.
What?
But Kiddush, because we're having a meal. So, but there's another place.
Oh, Havdalah.
Havdalah, right. When we say Havdalah,
So why do you say it during Havdalah?
Why do we say, very good, why do we say during Havdalah? Because Havdalah, you're obligated to do it in the sukkah. Because Havdalah, because it's something that's an established thing. In Havdalah, people will go into the house. It's not like a snack. It's something established. You need to make Havdalah. People do go into the house to make Havdalah. So therefore, Havdalah has to be done in the sukkah. Being that it has to be done in the sukkah, so minik Chabad is that we say Leish Sukkah when we do Havdalah. Now, out of Chabad, if you're going to be spending some time out of Chabad, and you're going to walk with them into the sukkah, they're going to make Havdalah, they will not say Leish Sukkah, because according to Halacha, you don't say Leish Sukkah on Havdalah. It's minik Chabad that we do say on Havdalah. But that's where the misconception comes over here. A lot of people think, oh, I have a cup of grape juice. You're going to say Leish Sukkah. No, there's no Leish Sukkah on grape juice. It's Havdalah. Because of Havdalah, it's something that's an established thing. And making Havdalah, and people usually do it in their house. They don't just do it. It's not like a snack, a drink. You go out, go into your car, make Havdalah in your car, you can take a drink, It's something that is an established thing. You do it in your house. So it has to be in the sukkah. So minik Chabad is that you say Leish Sukkah. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
I'm just double checking the grape juice. You don't need to say on grape juice or on wine.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it an obligation for women also to make Havdalah in sukkah?
It's a good question. The answer is that women are not obligated, because whenever we talk about obligation, about the men, saying a man who makes Havdalah, he has to go into the sukkah. Women aren't obligated in eating the sukkah at all. So for women, it's not an issue. Yeah.
If you're only eating things that are like hadama yeshako, then like the whole sukkah, you don't make then you're not yaitz in sukkah.
That is correct. Can you use the words? You're not yaitz in the sukkah. You're not obligated. You're not obligated. You're not doing. You have no obligation to eat it in a sukkah, and you cannot say the bracha leish sukkah.
Oh, see? I'm saying I'm sorry, like a man might say.
Yeah. Right. That's what I meant. Hadama shaku, it's Hadama shaku.
Right.
If that's all the person is eating, they have no obligation to go to the sukkah. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no bracha leish sukkah. Okay. But again, if someone is establishing himself there, having a meal, it's not proper because it becomes questionable. Once it's like a meal, it's a kriyas, eating a whole supper, then it becomes questionable. But there's another detail here. This that it's questionable is only if it's a sukkah that you will not, or you will not, and you have not said a bracha leish sukkah that day. Okay, again, I'll make that clear. If you're in your own sukkah, and that day you already said leish sukkah for something you're obligated, or you're going to, then there's no issue. When we spoke about a fabrengen before, if you're having a fabrengen, you should have a piece of cake, it's leish sukkah. Remember I said that before? When is that an issue when you should have some mezainis? Because if it's a sukkah that you will not be saying leish sukkah later on or earlier during the day. So it's a day. So that day, you will not be saying leish sukkah in this sukkah. If it's your own sukkah that you had already said leish sukkah on this day, or you will be saying, because you will be having mezainis later. And now you're having, if I'm bringing, you're not having mezainis there is no problem. So I brought up this issue because usually the chances are that you don't always say mezainis, have mezainis in that. You're being invited to a random sukkah, and if you're not going to have mezainis there, you're not having mezainis later during the day and saying leish sukkah there. That's why it's an issue. Is that clear?
Yeah. Also, you say the Zanis first and then the Shem Sukkah?
Correct.
And every single time you say they should get to look up, or is that when during Kiddush?
Every time. It's a minute that you have to.
Right.
You say Sukkah, Leisha Basukah. You say Basukah, you look up. The first night of Sukkos, the obligation of eating in a sukkah is much stronger for men, even though it doesn't apply to applies to men, but it's good for you to know because like this, you know what's going on. There's going to be a rain, and you see in Chabad, we always eat in the sukkah even if it's raining. But out of Chabad, when it's raining, and if the rain is too strong, they don't eat in the sukkah. But even out of Chabad, if it's the first night of Sukkos, even though it's raining heavy and you don't have to be in the sukkah, but you're supposed to eat at least a kazayis, which is about under an ounce of challah in the sukkah. And the ideal thing is to do it when it's not raining. So even out of Chabad, and even though when it's raining, they don't eat in the sukkah, but the first night of Sukkos, it becomes much more of an issue for them. They have more to deal with because you're supposed to eat at least a kazayis of challah in the sukkah, even though it's raining. Yeah.
So when a boy turns 13, that's when he's like obligated to be eating sukkah, and Chabad does every single thing that he eats. But does it start earlier for chinuch or like? Correct.
Yeah. Chinuch starts 5, 6, 7, 8. Not everything has to start at once. That as soon as a child is 6, everything in the sukkah. No, you encourage them, slowly, eventually they get there. Okay, let's talk about Lulav and Esrig also. Lulav and Esrig. We're starting the other class, I think Friday. Friday is the last class, okay. We'll go to Lulav and Esrig. So, Lulav and Esrig, I don't have Lulav and Esrig yet, but we can try as best as possible. Basically, the Lulav, if you're righty, the Lulav is in your right hand. Okay, so this is the Lulav. Okay, Lulav. We use this for Esrig. Works. Esrig, Lulav. Yeah. Lulav in the right hand, Esrig in the left hand. Okay. Now, it don't matter if you're righty. Righty, Lulav is in the right hand. Why is the Lulav in the right hand? Who knows why the Lulav is in the right hand? Esrig is in the left hand, Lulav in the right hand. Why? What? Okay, but there's a simple reason in halacha why Lulav in the right hand. Esrig is second class. Esrig is the left hand. Lulav in the right hand.
Not something that like we have like a vendor just for the heart.
That's you're going to talk about the deeper. There's a simple reason halacha why Lulav in the right hand. Taita says you can take 4 different species, the Lulav. And we tied the dasim and the aravis. Dasim, familiar with this term? So should I translate it? Lulav, palm branch, hadis, myrtle. Aravis is the willow branches. And the esrig. So lulav, hadasim, and aravis. One hand, esrig, the other hand. The reason why it's the lulav in the right hand, because the lulav has 3 out of 4 of the species. That's why.
3 what?
3 out of 4.
Why is that the right hand? Why is that a reason?
We give importance. We hold it 3 as opposed to 1. So you say if you take 4 species: lulav, hadasim, aravis, and esrig. You have to hold it all together. The Torah also teaches us that the lulav, hadasim, and aravis have to be held together. Preferably, it should be tied together as we do it, but it's supposed to be held together. And esrig separately, on the other hand, and then we put it together. Because lulav, hadasim, and aravis is 3, we give more chashivas, more importance to 3 over 1. That's why lulav is in the right hand. Simple reason. Yeah.
If you're supposed to bench lulav and esrig in the sukkah, then why?
Okay, let's listen.
I didn't even get to ask my question.
1 second, but let's explain. Are you supposed to bench load and esrog in the sukkah? The answer is you don't have to, but it's a good thing to do. It's the proper thing to do. What? Huh?
Shul, you do it in Shul.
No, people don't bench the esrog in Shul.
In Shachar,
There's a custom that during Halachos they hold the esrog and they shake it in certain places.
Right.
And that's already after they have done the mitzvah already, and they do it in the sukkah.
So they're not benching it in Shul. So they're swinging it.
No, you're allowed to. You're allowed to bench in the Shul, but preferably it should be done in the sukkah. That's the place to do it.
Okay.
The Gom of Tzayim, you don't carry a sukkah with you when you do Tzayim. Sukkah, that's preferable, but it's not.
Right.
It's not a deal breaker that if you don't have a sukkah, you can't do the rest. That's really the best way to do it.
But like a man before he goes to Shul, he'll bench in the morning.
Usually benches in the sukkah, yes.
Preferably in the sukkah. And then in Shul, during Halachos, he's not benching it. He's just
accustomed to shake. You have no rest, you shake it in certain places.
And it's only during Halachos, no other point down?
Halachos. There's a shyness where you're holding it and you're walking around. That's also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
Wow.
Now, great. Now, the bracha we send lulav is al netilas lulav. The Sham is a son of al netilas lulav, and there's really 4 species. The bracha is lulav. Why lulav? Because it says lulav is the tallest. Because lulav is the tallest, so the bracha is for the lulav, but it's really for all the 4 species because you're doing it all together. It's one mitzvah. Now, I'm going to show you how it's done and explain the reason so you remember how it's done. You pick up the lulav in one hand, and then you hold the S. You pick up the lulav and you say, al netilas lulav. Then you pick up the esrog, and you put it together. Now, what I said now was not for the first day. Because the first day, after you pick up this, and you say shechiyon, and then you put it together. Now we pick up the lulav, and then we say the bracha. Usually, a bracha is done before we do a mitzvah. Almost every mitzvah is like that. We say a bracha, and then we do a mitzvah. There are some exceptions. The reason why we pick up the lulav and then we say the bracha, because the mitzvah is all 4 species together. You want to do the bracha right before the mitzvah. How do you do right before the mitzvah? You pick up the lulav. I'm almost there. As soon as you pick up the esrog, the mitzvah is done. So it's just a technical way of how we can say the bracha right before the mitzvah. Because when we're holding the lulav, there's no mitzvah yet. The mitzvah is only when we hold all 4 species together. So we say the bracha to the lulav, and we pick up the esrog, and we put it together. And putting it together is already the mitzvah. Of course, we should shake. That's the right thing to do. But if someone didn't shake, let's say the fact that they put it together, they took it already, then itself is already the mitzvah. And of course, everything is to shake. And if you're able to shake in all directions, as we all know, I don't know if we should go through that now.
Why are we doing it?
Why
do we shake this?
Where?
Why?
Why do we shake in all directions?
What?
It says it's to stop the bad winds. The winds come from directions, and there's dew, D-E-W, dew that comes out from heaven. There's different dews that are bad, so we're going in directions to stop the bad dews from coming. And probably there's more to it. Yeah.
So I feel like I've asked this question before. So this is why we shake lulav. Why do we shake literally everything else?
Why?
We're shaking cars or money, or like they were shaking the new VM Kohanim. What is it with us and like shaking things?
Shaking.
Like waving them.
Oh,
we wave a lot of
we
things.
can't just still. We're in state.
No, but like you gotta pick a person up and shake them so they can work in the base of Mikdash.
It's not shaking.
What's shaking?
It's not a idea of shaking. It's lifting. Okay, yeah, I think good question. There are reasons for it. I'm not prepared to. I don't have it at the tip of my tongue to explain everything. To look into it, there's a reason. Not everything is necessarily the same thing, but question. Yeah.
Rabbi, and women are not obligated, right, to shake it. Why?
Right. So again, just like sitting in the sukkah, you're not obligated. You're not obligated, but you do it, you receive a mitzvah. And that's why we try to do it, because you want to get a mitzvah.
Right, but why we don't obligated to shake it? Like, are we now?
Why are women not obligated, you're asking?
Yeah, I mean.
Women aren't obligated because the general rule is that mitzvah that's time bound, that has a specific time.
You have 8 days. That's kind of a lot of time.
That's a specific time. It's only Succos, and it's during the day. It's not an endless mitzvah. Anything that is time bound is a mitzvah that women are exempt. Again, this rule has many exceptions. So that's why it can be confusing, because so many mitzvahs they still obligated, like keeping Shabbos, right? Every mitzvah, there's lots of exceptions. Every exception, there's a reason. There's a special teaching in the Torah that says this is an exception because it says like this. It teaches us an exception. There's something special that's teaching us whenever there's an exception. But just by default, just by itself, without any special teaching in the Torah, any mitzvah that's time bound, women are exempt. That's the rule across the board. Yeah.
So you pick up the lulav and you're right. You say Shechianu. Then you take the
No.
Oh.
You pick up the lulav in your right hand. You say out to the sluv.
Okay.
And then the first day, then you pick up the esrog and you say Shechianu.
And you know how
then
the
you put
has
it.
that little does it go on top or the bottom?
So what?
It has that little like thing.
The stem.
Okay, so without an S, it's not difficult. We'll try if I remember really Friday, but basically the esrog, if you look at the esrog, you'll see there's a part, you can see there's a part where it's cut off from the tree. It's called the ukitz, the stem. You know what I'm talking about? You'll see it's cut and you'd see that's where it's attached to the tree.
The little
okay?
part, right?
It's a harder part. Yeah? Following me? Yeah? That part is on the bottom. Even though when it grows down, but you hold it up because you hold it in the direction of how it grows. You're holding, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll see on the esrog, there's one part that has like the stem where it's cut. What fruit is similar to that?
Like lemon, apples, anything.
Apple? No, but you don't see it. You don't get it this way. The store.
The esrog is just one of a kind.
A lot of times you do.
You do? Okay, so you're following what I'm saying. So there's a stem, right? That stem is when you hold it is on the bottom, only like this.
Of an apple?
Like it.
A lemon or an apple?
Both. You
When we're talking about
don't
lemon.
usually get the lemons because I'm starting with citrus fruit. You don't usually get like citrus fruit.
Why don't oranges have that?
Yes, you has a stem at the bottom.
Maybe you see, but
The stem, you can see where it was cut.
Yeah.
It's like thick on the bottom. That's that. So then when you hold it, that stays on the bottom. On the top, either it'll be nothing, or you'll see what's called a pitain. Let me translate pitain.
Not sure if it doesn't have that.
There's like a piece. Not all esrog can come with that.
Oh.
Not all grow with it. Some do, some don't. Pitain is like a little piece coming out. Okay, you see a tiny little black piece coming out on top. Okay, the one on the bottom is a thick. It's a stem, thick. Okay, then on top, either there'll be a pitain, a little piece coming out, or there won't be. If it didn't grow with it, it didn't grow with it. If it did grow with it and it fell off, no good. So you really have to trust the person you're buying from that there was no pitain.
Do people only get one pitain for Ein
Huh?
Do people only get a esrog with?
Oh, whichever one. With, without. Some prefer without, because if you have with and then it breaks off, it's no good.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, but whichever way.
And you're supposed to get it during the Isser Mishra, right?
It's a good thing to do because before Yom Kippur, you're trying to get as much mitzvahs as you could. So it's another mitzvah on your list for Hashem. You did another mitzvah, you already got your esrog. That's why.
Nice. Also, I have another question.
Yeah.
If I'm not buying my own, but I'm like gonna use someone else's, that's fine, right? Or should I give him some money?
Okay, so could you use, very good question, could you use someone else's esrog? Someone else's loven esrog, is it be your own? Could you borrow some? I mean, do you have to have your own sukkah? You borrow somebody's permission, you go into sukkah, right? Well, could you use someone else's loven esrog? And the answer is, yes, you could, but he's supposed to give it to you as a gift. He's supposed to tell you the proper thing is that he tells you it's a gift on the condition that you return it to him, because it has to become yours. The first day of Succos, that has to be yours. First day must be yours. So it can't be borrowed. It has to be that he's giving to you as a gift, it's becoming yours. But if it's becoming yours, then you won't return it. You don't have to return it, right? Theoretically. So why would someone give something to you and it's yours and now you don't have to return it? It's taking a risk. So the way it works is he says, I'm giving it to you as a gift on the condition that you return it to me. Let me finish explaining. Yes, I give you as a gift, as a condition that's when you do the first day of Succos. The other days of Succos, you can just borrow it. Now there's an issue with children, we don't have time to go into it now. If it's Friday, remind me, we're talking about children. Children, the first day of Succos is a big issue, because if you let them use your lulav and esrog and it's becoming theirs, the issue is that they don't have any power to transfer acquisition back to you, which means that if it becomes theirs, they cannot give it back to you, which means now it's owned by them. And now if you want to take it back and give it to another adult, now if you want to give it to another adult, that other adult cannot do the mitzvah properly because it's not theirs. Halachically now belongs to the child, to the minor, because he only has the power to acquire, but he has no halachic power to transfer acquisition to the next person. So there's an issue with the first day, so we need more time to discuss it. It's Hashem Friday, we'll be able to talk about it. Yeah.
So if you're borrowing someone, but they don't do the whole thing, like, oh, I'm giving it to you and you return it.
You're talking about the first day? It's only the first day. After the first 2 days, better the second day also. 2 days, second day is a machlekes, so we try the second day also. But once it's after the second day, you just borrow it.
But isn't better if
basically it's a gift on the condition that you return it. That's what you should do. You give someone, if you have your own lovan esrog and you're lending it to someone, so I'm giving it to you as a gift on the condition that you return it to me.
But what if I'm borrowing from someone and they don't say that to me? Is it good to before Yom Tov to give them like $10? Be like, oh, can I?
They don't say it to you.
What if they don't say it to me?
I mean, in the door, I'm like.
So they just gave it to you as a gift.
Yeah.
So it's yours.
You
it's better if they say it to you because it should be a gift. Otherwise, then maybe they're just lending it to you.
Right. So is it? So my question is it good that before Yom Tov I should give him like a certain amount of money? Be like, this is for the lower, so that I have like a part in buying it? I don't know.
Why? You don't know.
But what if he doesn't say it to me?
So tell them. So make sure they say it to you.
Okay.
Make sure you say it. Tell them. Give it to me as a gift. Gift that I'm going to.
Man, the gift. Okay.
It should become yours. It shouldn't just be lending it to you.
Okay. Wait, I have one more question. Can you just go through again one more time? You pick up the lulav in your right hand, and then you say on this lulav, and then you pick up the.
That's like you say shahyan. Then you put it together. That's the first thing.
Okay. And the second day you don't say shahyan.
No shahyan, right? So right after you say the bracha, you take the esrog and you put it together and you shake. All right. Okay.
Pick a good esrog.
Good convention.
Everybody. Yeah.
Oh, we have to take attendance. The attendance sheet came middle of class, so we're going to do it now. Rivka Bendetska. Sorry, pen doesn't work. Before you leave.